Adjusting the white balance in any landscape shot is really important, but when it comes to snow-filled landscapes, it is even more critical because, as you'll see from this shot here that was taken with daylight white balance, it's really cold, quite blue with a hint of cyan, and that's just the way that snow behaves. Whenever you shoot it, you're always going to get a much colder looking image that you then need to process to just pull out the original colours that were there. So I have my shot here open in Lightroom already, and normally the very first thing that I would do would be to fix the white balance, but I've got all the other processing completed just so that we can see how the shot will look in the end. So the white balance is at the top of the basic tab, and where you see as shot, that is the preset that you would have had in camera. And then we have a number of presets that we can set here. So this can often be a first port of call. So you can just try out these different presets and just see how they behave and whether or not they fix the white balance problems that you have in your shot. But as you can see there, none of those presets worked for us. So what we're going to need to do is create a custom white balance. And there are two ways that we can do that. We can take a sample of a neutral tone from within the scene using the white balance selector, or we can use the temp and tint sliders to do it all manually. But what we're going to do here is use both methods to get ourselves to the best result. So just click on that eyedropper tool, and then you can click anywhere in the image. Each time you click, you're just going to have to click back onto that eyedropper to bring it up. So here it's come up way too warm. That's too warm as well. So let's just try the background there. So that's kind of getting there. I think that's the closest that we've got, but it's not quite there yet. I can see a hint of magenta in the scene, and it's definitely still too warm. So let's start off by bringing the temperature down. So I think that looks a lot better. We're not going to completely eliminate the blue from this scene because it's so overcast, because there was a snowstorm coming over as I was taking this shot. It is a very, very cold scene, so I'm going to go for this kind of happy, kind of medium in terms of the temperature, but it's still too magenta, so let's just bring that down slightly. So I'm just going to drag the slider to the left. So there I've gone too far. You'll see that the scene's becoming slightly green. That's a touch too magenta again. So I think it's either going to be an amount of 42 or 43. So there, let's just zoom in. So the rocks don't appear to have a color cast, which is good. Just moving around, everything looks neutral. So this is the best white balance that we can achieve for this particular scene. So now we've finished here, let's take a look at how we would deal with this exact problem in Photoshop if we were shooting JPEGs rather than RAW files. Okay, so here we have our image opened up in Photoshop, and you'll see that the white balance is really cold again because I've exported it as a JPEG but without the white balance adjustments in place. So what we're going to do here is work non-destructively. So I'm going to hold down Control and J. If you're on a Mac, that would be Command and J. So we've just duplicated that background layer. Now I'm going to go up to Filter and Convert for Smart Filters. And the reason for doing this is that when you apply a filter to a layer that's been converted for smart filters, it just means you can reopen the filter dialog and make changes to it later on if you need to, which is absolutely ideal if you're processing an image over a period of time, because you can then save it as a TIFF to maintain the layers, and you're not committed to any specific settings. You can always go back and change them as you would be able to in Lightroom. So now that layer has been converted and it's selected and active, we're going to go back to Filter and then select the Camera Raw filter. And it just takes a few moments for the dialog to open up. And it looks just like Adobe Camera Raw. And also you'll see that it's extremely similar to Lightroom as well. So the process here is exactly the same. We have several white balance presets, but not as many just as shot, auto and custom. And we have the eyedropper tool. So let's take that sample from the area where we did before, and we've got closer to a correct white balance by doing that, but we just need to tweak these sliders again. So let's start with the tint and remove the magenta cast. So I'm going to bring it over to the left. So we're introducing green into the scene, and I'm going to take that down to 42. So it's definitely still a touch too warm. So I'm just going to bring this temperature slider over to the left and then bring that down. So let's go back to 26. So there we go. So that is how easy it is to adjust the white balance of your snow-filled landscapes using Lightroom and the Camera Raw filter in Adobe Photoshop.